Divine and royal greetings, family. Welcome back to another edition of Build Through Broadcast. I am Shayola Benta, along with Coach Shantae and Coach Latoya. We are coming back live with part 2 on men and the parent womb. Thank you all so much for joining us yet for another week, for lack of better word. Try to come up with words that are not so like, But we are back with part 2 of Men and the Parent Wound. And this week we're focusing more on the mama relationship with her son or sons. We didn't want to put too much focus on the dads this go round. As we know, Sunday is Father's Day, and shout out to all the dads out there in the world that are doing what they need to do to take care of their little ones or their big ones, just kind of where you fall on that scale. So we are back. What say y'all as it relates to men and their moms? And some men can be categorized as mama's boys, and then you have men that have really no relationship with their moms at all. I guess I'll start off with a question. Do we feel, or do you feel, not we, because we all clearly have our own perspective on things, which is what we love. If you agree with someone all the time, somebody lying. So somebody's definitely lying. But when we think of men, and even clearly we're not men, but we've been in relationships or in relationships with men, how does their relationship with their mothers affect their ability to, of course, we're jumping right into maybe the adulthood, right? Because childhood obviously does play a big part. And that's, I guess, part of the question too. But how does that relationship affect the way that they are in relationships with women? So whoever wants to start to unpack that question first, feel free to unmute your mic and let it happen. Oh, I see Coach Shantae has already unmuted. Yes, ma'am.
That's partially because for whatever reason my phone won't let me mute myself. So I
Okay.
will try to keep this succinct.
Okay.
So my answer to this question is a man's relationship or lack of relationship or lack of a healthy relationship with his mom absolutely has a major part to play in the way that that man interacts with um, the women that he encounters in his future.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I've seen men who have really bad relationships with their mom go out into the world and they try and pull the nurture that their mother did not give them from their romantic partner. And it
Mm-hmm.
almost becomes like a tug of war for that woman to balance the relationship and motherhood, because it's almost as if the man is trying to compete with the children for the nurturing that the woman is giving to the children instead of parenting and nurturing themselves and being in a romantic relationship with that woman. I've also seen men who had previously unhealthy relationships with their mom work through that process of healing. And because of their mindset and what they desired within their relationship with their mom along that journey, they were able to treat the women that they were in relationship with the utmost respect, high quality character, just high caliber gentlemen. And it really does depend on the person, because again, that those parent wounds do influence how we interact with the world. But when we reach a certain age, it's our responsibility as individuals to make the necessary adjustments to really turn introspection on and say, okay, I'm aware that I have these issues and I know I need to address this. This is how I'm going to address it, and find ways creatively to work through those issues so that they do not continue to carry on into your future relationships.
Nice, nice. Thank you to those who are joining us live. If you're seeing this as a replay, definitely drop replay in the chat or in the comments. But we would love to hear from you. So feel free to chime in and join the conversation and share what your thoughts are. Coach Latoya, what say you?
I would say that Coach Shantae definitely, she hit the nail on the head as far as saying exactly what I was thinking. So like, and it really, at the end of the day, it's about the person, and at a certain age, it's your responsibility. So I wholeheartedly agree with that. I do, from my own experience of men, I will say that there is a correlation between how their relationship with their mother and how I see how they engage with me. And it's something that I realize you have to pay. I feel like you do have to pay attention to that. Although I do feel like there are men out there that may have had challenges in their relationship and overcame them, you know, and treat women differently. But I say that is something to definitely pay attention to by taking it slow and getting to know the person and observing how they engage with their family in general. Like, that's important. Yes.
It definitely is. Let me ask you this. Should, or who takes precedence in that man's life when he now has a family, or he's taking on a girlfriend who is soon to be a fiance? Is mom still number one, so to speak? Does wife now take number one position? How y'all feel about that?
Oh, absolutely. The wife takes precedent over the mother.
Okay.
I will hope any decent mother, just in general. I don't have a son yet, but I will say that if I am raising a son, I will hope that he would understand that his responsibility once he leaves the house and once he decides to marry a woman, that she takes priority, and that she's, and it's an example, and that he sees me and the father as an example of how to treat, you know, his wife, you know. So absolutely, the mother is supposed to let the son go, you know, and be able and showcase exactly what she taught him and what the father taught him, or other mother or father figures have taught, you know. So yes, mother has to let go.
Mother has to let go. Okay.
And I understand it is hard. And I know that's hard, because even I'm a girl mom right now. So I get it. It's difficult. Right. Even she's only 4, but I get it. So, but you gotta let go. Yeah.
You have to let go. Okay. I can totally dig that. Thank you. Latasha says, absolutely. This is interesting. And, you know, we definitely think so too. I definitely I didn't write down any questions. So this is off the fly. So this is unscripted, y'all. We're just coming in. Now, let's see. Monica Logan, greetings, sis. She says the wife is primary. A good wife will definitely include the mother, the MLM. I was going to say mother-in-law, but I'm like, I'm not sure what that other M is, but should definitely include the MLM. And I think it is important to dispel, or to get in the mindset of cultivating healthy relationships between mom and the new wife, you know, so that there isn't any competition. But of course, both women have to be how do you say, mature, to be, in order to do that and not put the man in that position. Absolutely. What say you, Coach Shantae?
I most definitely agree with Coach Latoya. And to the point of the parent wound, when it comes to mothers and sons, from my experience with my son, I've looked back over the course of our years together as mother and son, and the things that I have had to process through as a person. And I am aware of the areas and times where my traumas parented him ahead of me and what I was trying to do and how I was trying to teach and parent. And I'm aware also that if that particular version of me had continued the parenting journey, by the time he reached a space where he was ready to date, it would have been a challenge, even more so for me to say, you're dating this young lady. I'm interested in getting to know her, so on and so forth. Because in the process of parenting, it is also our responsibility to teach our sons, these are the type of women or characteristics that you look for in women, in partners. These are the type of characteristics that are red flags. These are the type of young ladies that you want to make sure that you are engaging with. These are the type of young ladies that you want to make sure you don't get too close to. We try to instill these things in our children when they are coming up, before they get to that dating stage, so that when we do get to that point, we have given them the tools and resources so that when they do bring someone home, we can say, okay, I know this person has been vetted thoroughly because I taught him how to do so. But when we are not parenting from a healed space, when we as women are parenting from our traumas and parenting from hurts and parenting from lack and all of these other just negative experiences, it shapes the version of woman that our sons interact with. Because even if we are teaching, these are the type of women that you want to spend your time with, if what they're seeing doesn't align with that, they're still going to go out into the world and they're going to be magnetized by their upbringing to attract to them those type of women, those types of experiences. So I really feel like when it comes to addressing the parent wound in men, in the regard of how they choose relationships, it's really important to look at not only how their relationship with their mother is as an adult, but also who their mother was throughout their early formative years. Because that, like the way our minds work and the way our minds are formed, what we see in those early years is cemented in there. That's our program. That's how we process the world. That is the blueprint for how we move forward. And it really takes a deep concerted effort to go into that subconscious, uproot. My apologies. And it's not going to let me turn it on. Okay, my apologies. Tony Jones had to come through with a word real quick. But it really is our responsibility to heal ourselves and process what we need to process so that our children can be whole individuals. I lost my train of thought, but that was my overarching theme for what I wanted to say.
I definitely can agree with that. And something that you said that stands out is the formative years. Now, they say that between 0 and 7 years is when a child really takes in their sponges, and that by the time that they're 7, their personalities are pretty much set as it relates to who they will be in their, adolescent years into adulthood. So, I oftentimes, and I grew up, in a space and time where, career and work was primary. So women were, either freezing their eggs or going, to great lengths to make sure that they can have children later on in life. Or it was, well, I don't really need a man. This baby is mine. I'm going to raise this child. I'm going to do what needs to. I'll be the mother and the father. On Mother's Day, we even see sometimes, thank you for being cards, like thank you for being my mom and my dad. So how do we, or what do you feel, or what's your perspective as it relates to women who say, well, I'm going to raise this child on my own. I don't need a man to help do A, B, and C, right? And knowing, okay, maybe people don't know so much that 0 to 7 is the most important time of a child's life. Coach Latoya, what say you?
I say that people are free to do what they want. I know for me personally, as someone that definitely did things the right way, as far as I waited until I was completely ready to have a child. I was married when I had a child, I did all of the things the right way, and it didn't work out the way that it was planned. And now that I am embarking on a new journey of raising my child while her dad is still around, is still not the same. And I personally don't think it's a good idea to go into it wanting to do it alone. Now, if you have a village, okay, that's fine. You already have the village and you got to plan it in a certain way, making sure that child has all types of people and male figures around. It's the shame. You got to plan it. Even with planning it, it's still, there's monkey wrenches to it. So I don't think it's a good idea. I wouldn't wish this type of stuff on anybody, that it's not easy. And parent tired is different from being like without a child. It's different,
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's all. That's what I got to say about that. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, so what I took away from that is, do what you feel, but and even if you have a plan, it may not go according to plan, but not having a certain setup, a village that includes both men and women, or a village of women, as it relates to boys. Where are you on the village?
Oh, was that for Latasha or Latoya?
That was for Latoya.
Oh, are you asking me where should it be?
Like in terms of village, are we saying a village in terms of men and women as the village, or just?
Oh yeah. Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Okay.
It was kind of going. I think it's like lagging, but yeah, I was men and women. It needs to be men and women. Everybody to be involved. It's not just one of the other. Be involved.
Okay, awesome. Coach Shantae, what say you?
First and foremost, I really took issue and take issue currently with people wishing me a happy Father's Day. Like, it has always annoyed me in like the deepest parts of my soul, because fathers are men who are, member, and I say this all the time, they're members of the penis club. I don't have that equipment to be considered a member of that club. So that precludes me from being a father every day of the week. And now that his father is transitioned and is no longer with us, it would annoy me even greater for someone to wish me a happy Father's Day as a woman, as a mother, because as a mother, I do this job and I do it to the best of my abilities. And when it comes to what my role is, I desire to be the best mother that I can be. And I desire, like Coach Latoya mentioned, to create a village around us with supportive men who can fulfill that fatherly energy and provide that men do this. They butt heads. And they brush up against each other and they sharpen each other like that iron sharpens iron. Men are absolutely required for that. I, as a woman, am not, this right here is not the way that I am naturally designed to flow and function in the world. Like, I'm not trying to butt heads with you. I'm not trying to force you to do X, Y, Z. I feel like if I say it one time, it should be done. Like, I don't feel that I, as a woman, am equipped to take on the role of a father. And as he gets older, it becomes more and more clear to both me and to him that fathers are so important. Like, I cannot overstate the importance of men in the development of children. Whether we're talking about sons or daughters, men are so important to the development of healthy people in the world. When it comes to sons specifically, there are so many experiences in becoming a man that I, as a woman, will not ever understand because I don't have the experience of naturally walking that path. So for me, I can't say, well, you can go ahead and just do whatever you want to do. Or excuse me, now I can't just say, well, I'm just going to take this role on and he doesn't need a father. We're just going to do this on our own. Because every single solitary thing that you do as a parent, your child is watching. Even down to their mannerisms, how they walk, how they talk, how they interact with the world. And if you're raising a son as a woman and your village is only filled with women, that is going to hyperactivate your son's feminine energy. And if he doesn't have that balance, if he doesn't have that masculine energy coming in from somewhere, then that can confuse your son's energy, and he will be imbalanced. His internal feminine and masculine energy will not be where they need to be, and that causes a whole other issue. So again, to the parent wound, when we don't look at our children as whole people, and we only look at them as my cute little baby, and this is my child, and I'm responsible for this child, that really causes so many issues for them in the future. And we really can circumvent so many of the problems that we see as adult women in our relationships with romantic partners if we start to generate a mindset within men and women that, number one, the child is both of our responsibilities. From the time that I, as a woman, am pregnant until this child is born, this is both of our responsibility. So yes, you do need to be at the doctor's appointments. Yes, you do need to be in the labor and delivery room. Yes, you do need to learn how to look at my breasts and see if one of them is engorged and how that whole process works, and be willing to help with getting the breast unengorged. You should be there for every step of the process. It's not a tag team effort where the woman just does everything for a certain period of time, and then the man comes in and takes over and they tag each other in. It's a team collaborative effort. And the second piece, so we've got to work together. The second piece, nobody's role is more important than the other person's role. And when we don't allow ourselves to process that and accept that no one's role is more important than the other, it creates this bickering, this back and forth, this negative energy, and that creates a whole other set of wounds. So if mother or father are not present, or mother and father are not healed, or whatever the case may be, if we as the parents don't have ourselves together, we are going to cause harm to our children. And it could be massive, major harm. It could be a slow burning thing that builds over time. It could be any number of things, but we have to look at raising children as a collaborative effort. And if you're in a situation like myself and Coach Latoya, where you're trying to navigate this thing as a single parent, then you really do need a village around you that you can trust and rely on, because life is big. And I'm raising a son, so we've got big life to deal with, and we've got him growing up into manhood to deal with, and all of those things have different requirements. So just essentially what I'm saying is both roles are extremely important. Both parents can cause chaos and trauma and harm their children. There is no one parent that does things better than the other. And like we touched on last week, some people like to believe that because the mother stayed or because the father stayed, that whatever traumas they caused should be swept under the rug. But that's not the case either. Again, you as the person are a whole individual. And whatever traumas you've experienced, you as the individual are carrying that, and you have to deal with it. You can't dismiss it and say she did the best she could and that's it. She did the best she could. He did the best he could. And these are the hurts that I have because of that. And this is how I'm going to address those things. So all of it comes together when you desire for it to do so.
How about, thank you so much for that, Coach Shantae, raising children in a manner in which they do not have to recover from any traumas. Like, we are healed as adults, we've taken the time to really, assess, and we parent from where we are at that stage of life. But before even bringing children into the world, we have a certain level of self-awareness and healing. And we're able to guide the children rather than, this whole word of parent, right? We are, when we do this collaborative effort, we are a pair who really rents this this avatar that has a soul, that has a spirit. They have their own course of action, they have their own mission, and we can't live vicariously through them, which can ultimately be another trauma. You have this idea of how your child is supposed to be based on what you could or could not do in your adolescence, and the child, that's not their mission. That's not what they came to earth to do, unless it is. But we have to be able to properly guide them and not force them or control them, right? My parents, my mother and my grandmother, predominantly godmother, I was raised by a bulk of women. I had men around, but it was mainly women, and they were strict. There were things that you could and could not do, and all of the things. So I think that now coming into parenthood, it has shaped me to think about, I would have been, super side note, this is really not about, the girls, but I would have been an overbearing, controlling parent just by my nature, right? So having the time to heal, having the time to become self-aware, and even coming into a knowing that you can't control, you can't be a smother mother. You'll send that child down a whole trajectory of healing that they now have to do because you didn't take control of yourself, right? So I say all that to say that as parents, we do have to realize that we are not in a position to control these beings. We are here to guide them, and when they get to a certain level in life or age in life, they are going to challenge us, right? Because part of the earthly experience is challenging authority. If someone is just telling you what to do, you'll start to look at them like, well, who are you? And children go through that, especially in their adolescent years. So to close out, we have a couple of minutes left. Do we think that it's necessary to have a rites of passage? And again, we're focusing on the men and the boys for boys. So I know in certain cultures, the women do a lot of the, they do the nurturing. I'm not saying that fathers cannot, but the mother takes on the whole nurturing aspect. But then when the boy hits 13, he now is kind of handed off to the father to do a lot of the manly things of the to that nature. What do we say about about that? Coach Latoya, let's start with you.
Oh, absolutely. It is needed. As you both were talking, I was just thinking that's why the rites of passage, I was literally thinking, I was like, that's why a rites of passage is needed to guide the young men, as the young boys as they become young men, so they'll be able to navigate life way more easier. And the one thing you mentioned about the women nurturing, I do feel like the men, there's some level of nurturing I feel like men do showcase, and they can showcase it to each other. And I know that would, if more men and boys were connected and did rites of passage even more, because I do know there's out there. I've seen them even in my own community. But if it was more, I do believe that men and boys will be more comfortable with expressing their feelings and emotions towards each other and towards, people in general, because although you are a man and, you're showing, there's a roughness to that, there's still an element that has to be soft when you come home to your children, to your wife, especially. And I think that's part of the disconnect with men and women, especially when you transition into parenthood, that remembering to nurture your wife, and your child, that piece. So yeah, I do feel like a rites of passage would definitely be important. I do know that it's important for boys to have that, to have a great example, to have a guidepost, of like what is righteous and what is not. So when you do navigate outside, then you know exactly how to get back in line. Because sometimes people do that. They go the route that their parents did not instill in them, but thankfully they get back on track. So yes, it's important.
I love that. Because detours happen. Again, it's not going to be, one straight line. So knowing that you've set a strong foundation, even if they veer off, they know how to get right back on track. So I'm here for the rites of passage as well. All right, Coach Shantae, we have a few more moments. Go ahead and close us out with your thought.
Absolutely. So the only thing that I really want to say on the topic of rites of passage is we naturally do certain things within our homes. We treat our young children differently than we treat our teenage children. So there's naturally an awareness that changes within our minds from, okay, I have to treat my child this way. I need to address my teenager this way. I feel like with rites of passage, doing those as a formal acknowledgement of that shift really creates a solid foundation. It allows the young man to understand these are the rights, roles, and responsibilities that I now occupy. These are the things that are now expected of me as a young man. I'm no longer a child. This is new territory for me, and I must conduct myself in this way. It also creates a covering for the young men when you have a father or a village of fathers who take them through that rites of passage and say, now you're a young man. These are the things that you're going to have to be responsible for as a young man. This is the support that you can look for from us as, your mentors or your father figures. And I think having that is extremely important, especially when you're looking at the wounds that mothers can cause. There's a necessary balance that we need to have within our masculine and divine feminine energy internally and also externally. So establishing those rites and rituals is a different and necessary experience. I also feel like giving young boys the opportunity to go through a rites of passage helps them to differentiate themselves and pull themselves out of traumas that their mothers may be heaping on them a little bit earlier. Because if you as a young man are starting to look at life and you're establishing yourself as a person and you have an awareness of yourself, when somebody, even your mom, is heaping trauma on you or doing certain things, you can separate yourself from that. You can look at it and call it by its name, say what it is, and then you have the ability and the strength within to address that either with your mother or with a trusted father figure to help you to process what's going on and navigate to the other side of it. I think without certain formal rites of passage that we used to have, our children are now melding and meshing childhood with adulthood. So instead of having a certain mindset that says, I'm an adult now, these are things that adults do, I have to put away these childish things. Now we only have a bunch of people growing up thinking that everything is okay because it just is, because there's been no formal adjustment in their mindset that says, that's childish, we don't do that anymore. That's immature, we don't do that anymore. I'm holding you accountable because you're a young man and I know you went through this specific rites of passage and this is what they teach within that rites of passage. you can't behave like that anymore, and I'm calling you to the carpet for it. We need more of that. And I really feel like rites of passage in and of itself will go a long way when it comes to addressing issues that our young people are facing today, because they're kids still. They've not gone through a formal rites of passage to be aware of what is expected and appropriate for them as adults.
Mm-hmm.
And we're seeing rises in crime. We're seeing rises in teen pregnancy and teen parents and all of these things that impact and shape our community, because the children are not being taught adulthood, and they're not being given that responsibility and the safety and security of community to be held accountable within. So to address the parent wound, we have to address who our parents were when they parented us. We have to also look at the fact that the traumas that they gave us are ours, regardless of whether we love them, they were there, or other things happened. And we have to give ourselves the rites of passage, whether we had an official rites of passage or not. That's something that we have to look at, so that we can move past those hurts and traumas and be fully present within the lives that we occupy as adults. So that's my 2 cents to close us out. And we would definitely love and appreciate the opportunity to work with you all, whether through consultations or pendulum readings. We are here as the Emerald Green Collective, and it is our pleasure to assist you with working through and processing the different things that you have going on in life through holistic means, so that you can show up in the world as your best possible self.
And with that, we say we hope to see you next week as we continue the conversation on Men's Health Awareness Month. I think we have like 2 more sessions within that space. So, share, like, comment, all the things. And thank you so much for your support. We love y'all as our community, and we continue to look forward to build with you. So until next week, Friday, we say peace, love, and wholeness.
Peace.